126 teams to go in my road to predict all 131 teams this college football offseason. And we are on to the Florida Gators. So the Florida Gators had a very poor season last year for expectations. Still made a bowl game, but still pretty poor per the expectations coming into the season. Ended up with a really unnervingly close game to an FCS opponent and Dan Mullen's eventual firing. They bring in Billy Napier from Louisiana, one of the most decorated coaches from the past couple seasons in the Sun Belt Conference. So can Florida, under Billy Napier, surprise the nation and maybe do a little bit more than they're expected to do this year? Or will Florida fall under first-year head coach? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome to my channel. Predicting all 131 teams this offseason, which means I'm doing your favorite team. So, hey, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you guys know when I upload your favorite team. And, guys, really stressing it this year, and this especially goes out to Florida fans in this video, but you guys are going to know your favorite team a lot better than me. So if you feel like you have something to add, Florida fans, please leave it in the comment section down below. Also, if you feel like I missed something, leave it down there. Be happy to read through them. I'm sure the comment section will appreciate it as well. All right, let's go ahead and get into Florida, talking about what did they do in 2021. Well, they are my 9th ranked team in the SEC in my preseason SEC power rankings. Again, we're doing this power ranking style, going through, and right now Florida for me falls at number 9. As mentioned, they did make a bowl game last year, but only went 6-6. We're 2-6 in the conference. And ended up losing that bowl game as well. That included a unnervingly close game to Samford in there as well. Their offense was not bad last year. Got over 450 yards a game and was able to score around 31 points per game. So those are not bad numbers on the offensive side at all. In fact, those are some pretty good numbers. It was their defense. And I think a lot of Florida fans have been saying for a long time that defense was the problem on this team. And Todd Grisham is gone off this coaching staff as well. But their defense, when you look at the stat line, it's not horrible, but when you really watch this team, you knew defense was the problem on this team. So Billy Napier, of course, came in, did his correcting, and hopefully the defense is a little better under first-year head coach Billy Napier. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of the players coming in and some players leaving and coming in for this Florida team. Leaving is quarterback Emory Jones. He's transferring out. Was the leading passer last year with around 2,700 passing yards. Was also their leading rusher last year with around 750 yards. That might surprise some people who aren't too familiar with this Florida program. But they still had some really good running backs leave this program as well. Damian Pierce, Malik Davis, both of them are gone. They were the 1 and 2 options at the running back position. Wide receiver room lost a couple weapons as well. Top target Jacob Copeland, who had 41 catches, 642 yards, 4 touchdowns last year, is gone, as is Rick Wells. And starting tight end Kamor Gamble is gone as well. On the defensive side, lots of talent leaving by the likes of Zachary Carter, Jeremiah Moon, Tyron Hopper, Muhammad Diabate, and of course, first-round NFL draft pick Khair Alam is off this defense as well. So in a team that's looking to try to improve their defense, they're losing a lot of defensive playmakers, and I think that's really going to hurt them coming into the 2022 season. But they still do have some good talents. Let's look at that talent now. Quarterback Anthony Richardson figures to be a Heisman contender, a first-round NFL draft pick, and could lead this Florida team to do very, very big things. But behind him is another pretty solid quarterback, in my opinion. I know him pretty well. Used to play for my favorite team. That's quarterback Jack Miller, coming over from Ohio State. And Florida fans, I can confidently say that I think you guys are getting a really solid backup here. I mean, Jack Miller, it's hard to compete with guys by the likes of C.J. Stroud and Kyle McCord. Going to Florida, I think, is going to be a good thing for him. I don't know how much playing time he'll get behind Anthony Richardson, but he's a solid backup option nonetheless. And in the running back room, you got a transfer from Louisiana following Billy Napier over is Montrell Johnson, along with former Clemson product DeMarcus Bowman should be the number 1 and number 2 options for this Florida backfield. In the wide receiver position, they got a huge transfer over from Arizona State in Ricky Purcell. They also still got guys like Justin Shorter and Xavier Henderson there as well. Both of them were pretty top targets last year. In fact, Justin Shorter was the number 2 target on this team last year with 550 receiving yards. Again, Ricky Perso, though, probably figures to maybe be the number one option. If not, then it's definitely Justin Shorter. On the defensive side of things, got a lot of nice talent still on this team. Brenton Cox, Ventrell Miller are experienced linebackers who are coming back to play for the Gators again, and a lot of top tacklers in the defensive back scene coming back as well. Trey Dean, Rashad Torrance, and Jason Marshall all coming back. So this is still a pretty good roster. Billy Napier's got definitely a talented roster to work with here, but taking a look at their schedule, this is going to be a pretty tough schedule for Billy Napier to traverse in his first year. When you look at the non-conference games, it starts off with a home game against Utah. That's going to be a very, very hard game. Utah figures to be a top 10 team in the country, looking towards getting into a college football playoff spot, and definitely are the Pac-12 favorites coming into this year. Then you got home games against South Florida, Eastern Washington, before you close the season with a non-conference game on the road in Tallahassee, Florida, again against Florida State. That rivalry game that takes place every year. As far as conference slate, they get another test early at home against Kentucky. Then they go on the road and play Tennessee early in the season as well. Other home games for this team at home against Missouri, LSU, and South Carolina. Road games against Vanderbilt and Texas A&M. And then the neutral site game against Georgia in Jacksonville. So let's go ahead and break down the schedule here a little bit before we get into the percentages. Look, these are two really hard games for Billy Napier to be opening his Florida tenure with. I mean, at home against one of the top 10 teams in the nation, you're going to have the Florida crowd behind you, but Utah fans travel well. There's going to be some red in the swamp for sure. The only question is, will it be blood or will it be Utah, right? Will Utah come in there and run them in, or will Florida smell the blood in the water? I think it's going to be a very interesting game to watch. For Kentucky, and going back to that Utah game for 1 second, actually, I think that's one of the premier non-conference matchups that we're going to see in college football this year. I think that's going to be a pretty fun game to watch. But after that game, they got to stay at home, but it's against another team that figures to have a top 25 ranking coming into next season, and that is the Kentucky Wildcats, who are returning a lot of nice pieces there as well. So Billy Napier is getting a taste of what the Power 5 conferences are like right off the bat, with a Power 5 game against a top 10 team in the nation and then a home game against your rival in Kentucky. So two very difficult games right off the bat. There are a couple easy ones here on the schedule. And the SEC schedule, I wouldn't say it's favorable because you have to go on the road and play Texas A&M. You have that neutral site game against Georgia, but there definitely still are some favorable games, like at home against LSU and at home against South Carolina. Again, guys, I do not predict game by game like I did last year. Instead, I do a more percentage-based outlook based on what I feel the team's percentage of winning the game is. So if the game's in red, probably not going to win the game. If it's in orange, you're still probably not going to win the game, but hey, college football upsets can happen. Yellow are your 50-50 or huge upset potential games. Yellow-green are games that you probably should win. But hey, crazier things have happened. It's college football. Upsets can happen. And if the game is in green, probably going to end up winning the game. 2 games in green. Those are the games against South Florida and Eastern Washington for obvious reasons. Should be able to win those games there. The games in yellow-green should be able to beat Missouri at home. I mean, I just did my Missouri preview. It's just me. There's no one else. I just did my Missouri preview not too long ago. For those of you interested, go back and watch it. And I did not have Missouri faring that well this year. But hey, again, the game's in yellow-green for a reason. There's no guarantee in the SEC. Other games in yellow-green at home against South Carolina, but that's a tricky game. Again, South Carolina can be a tricky team, and then on the road against Vanderbilt. The games in yellow, though, are the games I really want to highlight. Let's talk about the Georgia Texas A&M games. On the road against Texas A&M, I don't really feel like Florida has much of a shot there to win that game. And then with just the talent gap between Georgia and Florida, especially this year, and with Florida breaking in a new head coach, of course, Georgia are the reigning national champions. Probably not much of a chance for Florida there in that one either. But the games in yellow are very interesting, and they're going to tell the story for this Florida season. Again, I've already talked about the 2 games at home to start off the season. On the road against Tennessee, Rocky Top is a very tough place to play, much like the Swamp. And going on the road there, playing in that environment with a team that is returning their starting quarterback in Hendon Hooker. They have a lot of nice weapons on both sides of the ball. That's going to be an interesting game to watch. I'd probably give the edge to Tennessee there in that game, but that's going to be an interesting one to watch. At home against LSU as well. Again, that's a game that you like to have at home. LSU also breaking in the new head coach, so there's a lot of unknown about the LSU program as well. They've been on the downward trend since winning the 2019 national championship, so we'll see what happens there in that game. Doing my LSU preview soon. Doing it soon. And then, of course, on the road against Florida State. Look, I think Florida State's going to be a solid football team this year. And I think that game, coming into that game, could decide whether or not either of those teams make a bowl game or not. So that's going to be a very interesting game to watch, as it usually is at the end of the year. But guys, overall, I see Florida at 5-7. The home schedule is difficult, right? At home against Utah, at home against Kentucky, home against LSU, home against South Carolina. There are a lot of difficult home games on the schedule. But they're all games that I see Florida being able to win, right? The Swamp is a very tough place to play, and I think Anthony Richardson is going to have a fantastic Heisman caliber year, and I think is going to lead this Florida team to do some pretty good things. And honestly, Anthony Richardson might have the stat line to be in New York, although I think Florida is going to be around the 6-6 to 8-4 type region. That being said, though, if Anthony Richardson can put together a special season, as well as some of the transfers work out really, really well, this Florida team, I think, has an upside of 9-3. I think this team, I don't think it's too far-fetched to see 9 wins here on the schedule. Although, again, the home games and that neutral site game are very, very difficult. But it's a first-year head coach, and moving from a Group of 5 to Power 5 conference is one of the hardest things that you can do in college football as a head coach. So 4-8, definitely a possibility here for this team. Again, if that defense does not improve or gets worse, right? That defense has got to get better. But I think 7-5 is a pretty solid record for what this Florida team has. I mean, it's not as talented as some Florida teams have been in the past, of course. But I think behind a Heisman potential and first-round draft pick at the quarterback position, Florida can go pretty far this year, maybe even pull off a couple upsets down the road. But there's my 2022 prediction for the Florida Gators. If you guys enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell. Because again, you guys want to know when I upload your favorite team if it doesn't happen to be Florida. And guys, if you take away anything from this video, remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. See all you guys in the next one. Goodbye.